There's always a certain amount of arrogance in making a video in which you include the word wisdom in the title. Hello and welcome back to Bookish, and welcome to a video about BookTube. I do these every once in a while, and every time I do them, I do have these kind of like feelings that, I'm just being arrogant in my thinking and that anybody can benefit from what I have to say. But this was kind of inspired by a lot of videos I've been seeing that are kind of about BookTube lately. There was Shelley Swearengen's excellent tag video, which lots of people did, called Behind the BookTube Tag. I recently also saw Scott from Gunpowder Fiction and Plots, excellent video version of that tag, which really he turned into kind of an advice about making your BookTube channel or your videos better, and maybe then as a way of attracting more views, more subs, etc. And then yesterday, Mark from Book Time with Elvis, or maybe it was 2 days ago, Mark from Book Time with Elvis did a video which were like, I think 15 ideas or 15 video ideas for new booktubers, and he has several videos encouraging people to join BookTube, and I certainly encourage people to join BookTube also all the time, as often as I can remember to do that. But having been on BookTube now for, I don't know, I guess 3-4 years, and having kind of, I don't know what average number of subs is for BookTube, and having had what I'm going to call some success in getting subs, but certainly my channel isn't a big channel by any stretch of the imagination, it occurred to me that there were things or there was advice or wisdom perhaps that I have achieved, generally speaking, hard won through making tons of mistakes myself, that might be helpful to kind of the non-new booktuber. We oftentimes see videos designed to help new booktubers and people come to BookTube. And one of the things that I found kind of missing is like, okay, so now I've got 1,000 subs, or I'm nearing 1,000 subs, or I've been on BookTube for a few years, now what? Now what do I do? And, I think if you've been on BookTube for a while and followed BookTube, you know that a lot of people just kind of disappear. And the longer I've been on BookTube, the more I think I understand why that might happen. So these are not necessarily 7 things that I've come up with, to keep you on BookTube or to make BookTube necessarily more satisfying with you. And a lot of them are just kind of like warnings about things that can happen on BookTube, like your dog deciding to join you and to sit in her incredibly chewed up chair. Hello, Zelda. While you shoot a video. But these are just things that I thought of that, are kind of wisdom. And I imagine a lot of you are smart enough not to fall into these traps at all, but maybe this just be a helpful reminder, or maybe this will be one of those videos you go, that guy is an arrogant jerk. I'm going to not watch his videos anymore. Either way, I wanted to share these kind of points with you and talk about these things briefly. So like I said, I have 7 points. Point number 1 is don't shame other booktubers. So this is closely related to, I think, what would be my next point. But, one of the things that social media creates, and one of the things that a trap that I kind of fallen into from time to time, is the idea of kind of using social media to get out frustrations and confrontations and all those kinds of things. And, I don't think I've done that on BookTube except in one occasion, which I feel like it was somewhat justified because it didn't have anything to do with books. But a lot of times what I've seen in comments or in videos is people kind of calling out, maybe not specifically other booktubers, but calling out habits of other booktubers or the reading taste of other booktubers, or, something like that. And in the comments, it's usually worse. And let me just say, don't do this. It's not that I've never done it. Again, I pointed this out. Let me just repeat. These are usually things I've learned through making these mistakes myself. But, don't do that. If you watch a video and you disagree with what the creator has said, either don't say anything about your disagreement, or figure out a way in which you can say that as constructively and non-negatively as possible. Even then, you may run into some, problems, but, you don't want to leave that comment going, wow, I just don't think you understood this book at all. Or you don't want to leave that comment like, oh, I can't believe you're making this kind of video, or whatever it is, or that you've monetized, or that you have a Patreon channel. Don't make videos that are shaming other booktubers, and don't leave comments that shame other booktubers. There's just nothing positive can come from it. And as we say here in BookTube all the time, community is the best part of the BookTube experience. And if you shame people and you get that reputation, you will find it harder to participate in the community. Point two, which is kind of similar to that, is to give grace to other people here on BookTube. Give grace, and remember that, for the most part, we are not professional video makers, commentators, reviewers, whatever. And that we are, essentially making videos because we love talking about books and we love interacting with people who want to talk about books. And that perhaps, having the most polished video possible is not something we're particularly interested in. And if that keeps you from, watching our videos, if that keeps you from, if that makes you not subscribe, that's fine. I don't think anybody has a real problem with that. But, we need to give each other grace when we misspeak, when we make mistakes, when we leave comments, whether we leave comments on the video, whether we leave Voxer messages, whether it's on Discord or anything like that. We need to give one another grace to make mistakes, to, and to understand that for all its virtues, social media is an imperfect way of communicating, because particularly in the written form, you can't read into that tone, intent, or you can read perhaps too much of those things into it, and that can lead to disputes, anger, frustration, decisions to end BookTube friendships. And again, these are all mistakes that I certainly have made. So be really careful of that. And then I would also say, along with this, be really careful with response videos. If you're going to make a response video because you disagree with something somebody said, you need to be, I think, really careful. I've made some of those. Sometimes I've thought, well, that was stupid, I shouldn't have made that. Sometimes I thought my response video was, justified and warranted. But, do be careful with that. And one of the things that I struggle with the most is giving people grace for mistakes, particularly if it's something that I feel like is directed at me. Third thing I want to say is along the same lines. Don't let your emotional connection to a book keep you from engaging, following, and becoming BookTube friends with somebody who has the exact opposite opinion about that book. That's not something that is constructive. It's not something that's going to be helpful. I think this is kind of closely related to the first two, but we do sometimes become really emotionally connected to books. Like, just to give you an example, Jan Foss's Septology, I'm really emotionally connected to. And I know that not everybody's going to like that series of books, is going to like Foss's writing. I understand that. And so, I have to remember that just because I love them, just because they spoke to me, doesn't mean they speak to everybody. And that's okay. That we don't have to, and we're not going to agree about everything or about every book. And, don't let that, prevent you from having a friendship with somebody who disagrees with something else, or following them, or promoting their channel. That's not really, I don't think that really benefits everybody. Prompt 4 is really, I think, similar to that, is don't segregate yourself, or at least I would say, don't segregate your BookTube watching into just the kind of books you read. Some of the most impressive people on BookTube, some of the people that I admire the most, some of the people whose videos I watch the most, oftentimes have really different reading tastes from me. We have marine scientists that, in addition to reading, loving to read nonfiction, reads romance. We have, a lawyer and a former member of a nation's government who loves to read science fiction. We have, any number of people who read fantasy, who, have incredibly impressive credentials and are just incredible people to talk to and engage with. And if, I only followed channels and only watch channels that, read the exact same kind of thing I read, I never would have met these people. I wouldn't know anything about them. A history professor who loves romance, it's just a great channel and a great follow. So, please be really wary about segregating yourselves into groups. And even in terms of what people in kind of the part of BookTube I think that I'm connected to the most, refer to as our little corner of BookTube, even break out of that. Follow some big channels. There's some great content out there from big channels and big creators, some really good stuff. And just because, their editing is really slick, their use of music is really slick, and they read a lot of books and they have a lot of subs, doesn't make them a bad follow. It doesn't make them, somebody you can't relate to as a booktuber. Now, of course, somebody has 120,000 subscribers is unlikely to be able to respond to all the comments. You'd be surprised, but they're unlikely to be able to do that. And you do kind of have to have some understanding of that as you go along. The fifth point I want to make is that you need to do BookTube because it's fun. That is the primary thing I would say. You need to do BookTube because it's fun for you to do BookTube. And one of the things I think that's important is to accept that, when people we watch and people whose channels we watch a lot or like a lot, stop their channel, stop making videos, it's probably because it was no longer fun. So for me, when BookTube becomes no longer fun, that's when I think about, that's when I will think about quitting. There have been times in which BookTube's just been too much extra and I've taken breaks. I do that sometimes in a week or 2 weeks, sometimes a month. And I see if I want to come back to it, if I think it would still be fun to make videos. But BookTube should be fun. This doesn't mean that you can't try to make your BookTube into something that provides you with an income. I think that's fine. If you're having fun and you're making money doing it, that's fine with me. I think that's great. But if you start your BookTube channel specifically as an income supplement, as a way to make money, as a way to be an influencer, I think the number of people who achieve that through BookTube is really, really small. And you're unlikely to be one of those. Go ahead and try. But, if that's what you're after and you're doing it because you want to be an influencer, you want to try to make, money through that process, I think you're going to have a hard time going if your continuing if your channel is unsuccessful. My sixth point is kind of related to that, and this is one of those things that I think is probably the most common thing here that people struggle with, and that I've had these feelings myself, is don't become envious of the success of other booktubers. I'm going to tell you this right now. Their success has nothing to do with the success of your channel. They aren't keeping viewers from you. They are not, preventing people from watching your channel. They are having success on their own. And I think in the times where I've gone, wow, that channel really grew fast, I don't think that person's doing anything different than I am. Why is my channel where it is and their channel's where it is? And then I look back and if I really watch their videos, I realize that there's several things that are true. And these are things that Scott pointed out. Their production quality is higher. Their sound quality is higher. They edit their videos better. And that makes a better product that clearly the market of viewers is more willing to watch, and good for them. I probably am never going to want to be able to, devote that kind of time and energy to making videos, because what I like is the interaction and the talking about books. But, we have to really be careful about, not envying people and not allowing our envy of other people's success to affect our enjoyment of what we're doing. Again, and this goes back to the last point. If you're doing this for fun, then envy should never really become a part of that. Don't envy the opportunities. Don't envy the success. And if you do, look at your own channel and think, maybe I could do this better, and then try to do it. Again, Scott's video would be excellent for that. And then the last point I wanted to make is don't forget your old friends, but don't be afraid of making new ones. So this is just kind of a theory I have about BookTube, that when we started off on BookTube, we kind of fall into a cohort of BookTube channels that are small enough to still pay attention to new channels and to pay attention to new channels. And then all the other people who kind of start around the same time we do, or whose channels start the same time we do. And one of the things that's true is that as you go on, some of those people will quit and they won't have BookTube channels anymore. And so you've lost those friends. Some of the channels that were bigger than you when you started will get even bigger, and it becomes harder for them to engage with all the channels they subscribe to, even people they consider to be friends. I found that to be true for me as well. So one of the things that I try to make sure I do, and not because, I feel like, oh, I have an obligation, but because I want to stay engaged with these people, is to make sure I watch some of their videos. I don't think there are very few people who I watch every single one of their videos anymore, because I subscribe to about 450 channels, and there's no way I could watch all those videos. Even as a retired person, I just don't have that time or that ability to devote that much attention to it. But I do try to check in with them. I do try to keep up. I do try to consume, watch some of their content. And then the other half of that is, go ahead and make new friends. Go ahead and reach out to new channels, no matter how big they are, or how small they are. Reach out to those channels, subscribe, do all those kind of things, watch their videos, and try to make more and more connections. And if you haven't picked up on this, and I've said this many times, it's the connections, it is that kind of conversation that I find to be really the most valuable thing about BookTube. Anyway, there's some BookTube advice perhaps for booktubers whose channels are beyond the newbie stage, are a year or two in, and their channels experience some growth. Some things to kind of keep in mind to really try to keep the experience enjoyable, and to keep it something you want to do. Anyway, look forward to your comments in the comment section below, and as always, thank you for watching.